So
that
that's
was
literally all you know.
That's what they compare that to.
Yeah, they did compare it to
her working in an office like that. Hey,
yeah, that her life was a lot like that. It was a lot of parties and high events and, you know, fabulous people and fancy clothes and, you know, surrounded by a lot of probably pretty shallow people, I'm guessing. I mean, it's
sure.
I mean, yeah. This world is very, very cutthroat.
It's a lot about looks.
Hey, what's up? How you doing?
You're judged a lot on your looks
and what
it's fashion.
You are wearing. How expensive your clothes are, and you know, she felt a lot of pressure, just like Anne Hathaway in Devil Wears Prada, to like.
I'm doing alright. Figured I'd fire up a little Minecraft here, do some crafting.
Too, like it sucks it up.
She was like super into it. She like really thrived as this high fashion writer.
Yeah, she actually wrote for like the major magazines, Cosmo, New York Times, Elle magazine. She also interviewed like celebrities like Martha Stewart, as well as some other fashion designers. And at one point, she dated Anderson Cooper's brother, actually. But she was also somebody that had a bit of an obsessive personality. She was very obsessed with, you know, money, sex, all those kinds of things. Like, that's at least what people say. I don't know for sure. I'm really on the fence with that because I'm like, well, how do you really know?
Yeah.
How much evidence is there for that? Because that seems like kind of a little strong, you know, like strong language. Like, it's not like she was like a prostitute or something. Like,
I mean, they said she had an obsessive personality, that she got obsessive about certain things, and that she even had issues like being obsessed with things like regret. But specifically, it seemed like she had an extreme
really passionate
personality.
About like everything that she really liked.
So she's a Sagittarius too, and so like that kind of explains that. Like she was really passionate about a lot of different things, and she could kind of obsess over them, and sex was one of them.
Right.
So which I mean is, a lot of women are like that. Like they just, she never really like settled down. She. I think kind of feared commitment. She really
kids, right? Like she didn't want to have kids
at first,
right?
And she, you know, she just was having a lot of fun and really wasn't. She was very independent. Was she a Capricorn? What is it? The 23rd?
Yeah, I was gonna say, make sure you got that right.
I thought she was a Sagittarius, so she's on the 23rd, but
it was go back here, December 23rd.
1956. So either way, I mean, she's right on the cusp, so Krista
had basically an obsessive personality.
I made my way all the way back to her old house.
People said that she was very obsessed and passionate about the things that she did.
Sweet.
When it came to work.
Right.
That's awesome. I dropped my stuff off.
Things like
money, all these things, and then sex as well.
Right. That this was something that she just really liked to do, had a lot of partners, things like that. Like she was very into it and just, something that she did a lot.
Yeah, she didn't seem like the type that like really settled down. She liked to be kind of free to do whatever she wanted. She was a very independent type of woman, so.
And a very pretty woman too at that. Like she was definitely.
Yeah, and I mean she was in this like high fashion world. Like she was really pretty and dressed really nice and was definitely a catch. She was also really smart too, which was interesting about her. She was really, really smart, a good writer. I mean, she made even fashion stuff sound like artistic.
Yeah, she wrote like a really amazing stuff from the people that understand that world. They said that it was like it's like writing the Bible of fashion and stuff. Like it was just really good. So.
And then another thing that she experienced a lot in her life was a lot of regret.
Yes.
That she had this kind of obsession with regret and regretted so many different things. And one of the things that she was regretting as she got older, like closer to her 40s, she started regretting the fact that she still hadn't had a child and she wasn't married or like on track to become married, didn't have like anyone she wanted to marry. Like it wasn't looking like her timeline was going to work with having a child. You know, you can only have a baby for so long.
Right, totally.
And that's something that a lot of women have to deal with. Like, I think every woman has to kind of like think about, this. It's a stressful thing, your fertility. You don't know like how long you'll be fertile or, and playing that like time game is hard because like you want to like take as much time for yourself as you can, but then you don't want to also run out of time. So she kind of ended up in that point where she like really made her life all about her and her job and like, but then kind of forgot about this whole other part that she realized she really wanted a child and wanted to raise someone that's important to her. And she decided that she was going to do this on her own.
Right.
which was really crazy at the time, apparently, in the 90s. Like, no one apparently was doing
Like a
this.
sperm donor, basically.
Yeah, and just raise a child on her own, which was I thought was really cool and unique that she wanted to do that back then. You know, you don't
just
hear
shows how
of
like
many
independent
women
she
doing
is too. Like the fact she was so confident in doing that, and she just did it.
Yep.
Because
Like,
she
I don't need
knew
a
she could
man.
handle it. Like,
She didn't want to just like go settle for someone to like fill that void.
Yeah.
She'd rather just do it by herself. I thought that was kind of cool. So her plan was kind of to just start dating a bunch of different random guys and secretly trying to conceive, which is honestly really fucked up. You probably should not do that.
Surprise, man. You're
Yeah.
dead.
Yeah. So she was really upset about the whole not being able to have a child thing. Like, as she was doing it, it was harder than she thought to conceive. Which, I mean, at this point she was like close to 40, so it was going to be difficult. But she still had faith that it was going to happen. She had a feeling that she was going to have a child, so she kind of didn't give up completely yet. And she was really public about this. She actually went on TV to talk about this. She went on, what was it, like a Oprah or some, I don't remember the TV show. But
it was
just like a talk show type thing. I don't think it was Oprah actually, but she went on to talk about like how unusual it was for a woman at that time.
Yo,
to try
what's
to
up?
conceive on their own.
What's up, dude?
That was interesting that she wasn't like using a sperm donor and stuff. She was just trying to
just go get lucky, pretty much.
Yeah.
Convince every guy to like.
Yeah, but as she kept trying, it got harder and harder. She realized, something's wrong. That's when she was diagnosed with early menopause, which meant she was probably not going to be able to ever have a child.
Right, your chances go down a lot.
Major.
To almost zero.
Yeah.
I think it's like almost 0%
Yeah.
chance. I mean, it's really.
This pig keep trying to get in there.
So, I mean, Kristen, she's.
Not much, man. I'm just running around, dude.
Person that, she's
just exploring.
Wants to be so in control of everything in her life. She was so like strong and independent that
just
I think
exploring,
not being
man,
in
running
control of
around.
her body in this situation, being able to like work on the timeline that she wanted to, was really devastating for her and depressing. And finding out that she had menopause was absolutely devastating to her, which I think, I mean, that's like huge to lose that ability, because you can't ever. There's such a huge emotional bond that you have, I think, by actually having a child.
Right, versus
and of course,
like just go and adopt them.
Yeah, and adoption is great and is awesome for so many people, but it's also something that I think a lot of women literally long for. Like, it's instinctual. It's literally ingrained in us to want to reproduce and raise something. Yes, and leave something when you leave.
Yeah. Very natural.
A part of you. Yeah, it's very natural. I think that was really depressing for her. So I don't even think she was considering adoption. She wanted to only
have like a natural birth and go through the whole pregnancy process and do all of that. So this caused a lot of like turmoil in her life, and she kind of wanted to get away from the hustle bustle of New York City and move out to Cape Cod.
Yeah, which Cape Cod's beautiful. I've been out there. When we first met, that's actually where I went when I first met you. So what was that? Almost 9 years ago.
And I was in New York City, funny enough.
Yeah, you were at the same time.
Yeah.
Weird. But yeah, I mean, beautiful place. So many people take trips there. I was just watching someone's vlog who was there for a vacation. It looks so nice.
Yo, what's up, Del?
But it's a pretty mellow area, and this specific
How is
area
that talking in the background? Oh, I have another phone playing a podcast.
It sounds like Truro, but Truro, Massachusetts, and it's a really beautiful area in Cape Cod. It's a really lush area, a lot of greenery.
Super rural though, like out there.
I'll play a little bit later here. After it's done on Minecraft, I will.
Everybody knows everybody.
Play some Sea Dizzle.
Where people leave their front doors unlocked. Free to just walk in.
They always say that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's just like an old
Always
thing
nice to have a backup
your
phone.
mom still leaves her door unlocked. Like,
oh, I know.
Like, it's just a
she
thing.
needs to stop though.
Yeah,
She's in Denver, Colorado.
Yeah.
I don't know what she thinks this is.
This ain't Truro.
No. But yeah, I mean, they said this is typical. There's no crime here. Nothing ever happens here. And then it did, and it's shocked the community. So let's talk
Daddy's
about what
playing
happens.
CD with Rage.
Yeah, and
Nice.
her family was like.
Yeah, he wasn't playing earlier.
In Truro.
Yeah.
For generations, they had owned houses out there. So when she went out there to
He was playing
City,
Identity or something.
She was going to a cottage at 50 Depot Road, which her family owned. And it was on the harbor, and it used to be her grandmother's. And she thought this would be the perfect place. It's this cute little bungalow on the beach.
Yeah.
It's honestly a cool little spot.
How do you use the shield? Oh, you just you gotta make it, and then you just
So she kind of just left the whole
put it on.
High class
right
life behind, and
you just have to make it. I think it's like right in here somewhere.
Which makes
If you didn't see me text, I missed that one, Del. Sorry.
Get a change of scenery.
Yeah, I think kind of figure out what was gonna happen next. What's her next chapter? Because now I think she's kind of like letting go of the idea of, okay, I'm probably not gonna have a kid, so what's the rest of my life gonna look like? Like, what do I want to do, and what do I want? And I think she was kind of at this crossroads, and she figured it was kind of a good place to go think about what to do.
Yeah, totally.
And this is around the time that she met a
Yo, what's up,
named
Spidey? How you doing?
Jacket. Tony Jacket, wearing his jackets. He didn't actually wear jackets.
Tony, the shellfish constable.
Shellfish constable.
Never even heard of that before.
What does that even mean?
He's the guy that makes
that?
sure all the fishermen
Whoa.
are like abiding by the rules and not bringing in too much. And it's kind of like the wildlife guy.
It's like fish police.
Hello, love.
Gotcha. Okay.
But he was a guy that worked locally there. And
Should I do a face reveal or no? Oh yeah, you should. Why not?
But yeah, he got
Good to you. Right? Yeah. Yeah. Good day. Yeah, it's pretty good.
They just kind of
Having a good day, man.
met each other. He went over there.
I
to
said,
help her
I don't
out.
know what that says, man.
Just some things, And
It's
then I
all
guess
blurred
one
out.
thing
Spidey,
led
thank you
to
so much for the
another.
follow.
And yeah, there was some
Thank you
attraction there,
for
and
tuning
yeah,
in.
they ended up hooking up.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
yeah,
spicy.
so she hooked up with Tony,
Gotcha.
and
And it was
Yeah, I don't know, you
a wild
can't
look
say that.
there.
That's kinda
They were
weird,
in
huh?
bed
It blurs
all
it out.
day together, she says.
Yeah, they
She
were
said they were in
together
bed
for a while.
from 11 a.m. to like 7 p.m. Yeah, what is that? 8 hours?
is that
Damn.
like constant action, or is that like
I don't know. They must have taken
a
breaks.
few movies in between? Like,
Yeah. Do you guys have Netflix on or what?
yeah.
I mean, I guess this was in the
That's how I
90s.
feel. Yeah.
But still, I mean, to
That's
have
alright,
a
me too, but I do
married
my,
man with 6
I do 'em.
kids
They're fun.
having an
I like
affair
face
with
reveals.
Yeah,
this woman.
yeah, he was a naughty boy. That's not good, Tony.
Yeah.
Oh,
Very
okay.
bad.
So
And so his wife has
Snow.
no idea this is going on. So then, to Krista's surprise, she finds out that she is pregnant. And she thought, that this was
I'm eating
impossible. So this was
spicy
like a
chips.
miracle.
Hell yeah.
And she's stoked.
Which it
This
kinda is.
so-
It's
yeah,
like, wow.
totally. It
Spicy
seemed like she really
chips,
was
eh?
meant to have a kid. And she it's weird that she had a feeling
Hey,
all
Daddy said
along.
I should let my
Never
followers
ended up.
choose. Oh yeah,
So,
of course
I
you
thought
should.
that was really
Give 'em
crazy.
a-
But
do like a
this
vote
is Tony's
thing.
Kid. And the thing is like Tony
So
was
people could
pissed
vote on it.
because he did not know. I mean, I think he was under the impression she couldn't have a kid.
Right,
She's
she
like,
probably told him, like-
I have menopause and stuff.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure he was like, oh shit, holy.
well, yeah. I mean, he's
Minecraft
kinda
God, thank you so much for the follow, bud.
Kid.
He's like, that's the last thing I need is another one.
Oh shoot.
And he doesn't want his wife to find out.
And she's
so,
thrilled. She's like, hell yeah, I got
Yeah.
a kid now, and
Yeah, and
this is
so
great.
at first she's like, okay, well, no worries. Like, I think she understood. Well, I did kind of like,
Yeah.
I mean, she didn't trick him technically, since she didn't think she could actually get pregnant. But she, kind of let him off the hook.
Yeah, and she was
Do you have
like,
Xbox?
well, this will
I
be
do
our
not know. I
secret.
play on my
Like,
phone.
Don't worry
I
about
won't
it.
tell your wife.
Like, thank you pretty much for giving me a child.
Yeah, I mean, she
hope
was just
you're
so
involved,
grateful.
But
Yep.
I get it. Like, yeah, she was like super cool at first, and for a while, she was able to do that. But,
How long are you gonna be?
how long are you going to be able to handle a kid all on your own and just
Well, I
like?
mean, eventually the kid's gonna
the
start
kid's
asking,
asking
"Who's
questions.
my dad?"
Yeah, where's
And
daddy?
what are you gonna do? So, I mean, I'm sure there was a lot of
I
things.
did not
that
hear
she
you.
started
No,
to
I
think about
play on my
first
phone.
that
I don't
as
play on
you
console.
Parent, you start thinking about, and you wish that they were involved.
Yeah, and she kept a diary too, which is interesting because she was
did.
such a
She was a
writer.
writer, so.
She kept a diary, so we have a lot of really intimate details about just her life and what she went through because she wrote everything down. And she talks about how she was really upset that Tony wasn't involved at all.
Okay,
in
I'm
Yeah,
gonna
as
do
time
it.
went on.
because she was really
Alright.
struggling with pregnancy. Which I'm sure at that age, like that's.
Do I have
gotta
the
be
app?
rough
Yeah,
on
yeah.
your
I
body
signed in
and
through
stuff.
Xbox, yeah.
That's a good point.
Older woman, like I'm sure it's not easy to carry a child at that age. And
No.
just all the normal struggles that come with it, but
And just you want to
Yeah,
be
this is my name on here.
supported when you're going through that,
Yeah,
right?
totally.
Like it's
Well,
like
emotionally, too,
you're
you need
carrying a
someone to-
child that's both of yours. Like it's not just
Yeah.
your baby, so it makes you feel pretty alone if
Oh,
you're like
here's my
going
other
through that
spot.
process.
Here's my
A lot of
mining
people
spot here. Oh, he
would
built
like
right
to
through the
have
middle.
a partner.
Okay.
Obviously, she's feeling,
Yeah, oh, here's
angry
my
at him
name right here.
because here he is with his other 6 kids and his wife, just fine, and she's like, dealing with this on her own and doesn't have that supportive partner. So she's starting to feel angry at him, and you can see it in his diary entries that she's just mad.
Yeah. I mean, she's starting to resent.
And he's mad at her too, because he's like, what the hell?
Ouch.
Because I think he probably wanted her to, like, terminate the pregnancy.
Probably, yeah.
I'm
He
sure
probably
they
wasn't
discussed
thrilled
that.
when she said that she was going to keep him, or keep her. But I mean, luckily she did, and she gave birth to her daughter Ava.
Beautiful little girl.
Yeah. And she obviously just, as soon as she had her daughter, she just fell in love with her and, you know, loved her up and down and just was a great mom for her.
Yeah, people said she was a really good mom, actually, and that she was just
What
super
you mean, man?
patient and really involved and into it, just, like, totally hands-on. I mean, when you wait that long for a kid and you've just, like, been wanting a daughter so much, and you, like, are
What do you mean
blessed
drought?
with this
What do you mean?
miracle child, I mean, you're going to give it everything you have.
Yeah.
And she really did, so Ava was pretty lucky that she had her as her mom because she was so into it. So she kind of made up for the fact that Tony wasn't even around.
Right. Because even up till the time that Ava was 1.5 years old, Tony's wife still had no idea that he had this other kid.
Until Krista decided that it was time to clue her in.
Like, yo.
So she wrote a crazy note. I mean, this is insane. She decides to write a note to his wife. I don't know what her name is. Susan. She writes a note to Susan, and it's basically like, "Hi, Susan. Just so you know, I have been banging your husband for years, and and I just thought you should know." That's basically how it
and
said.
being like the first time that we hooked up, we were in bed for like 8 hours, like really trying to
I have
write
54
something.
followers. Hey, right on, cool.
Thought he was picking
Right
up
on.
your son. He was actually fucking me, word for word. That's what she said. So
Moving right on up.
It was not like a woman to woman. Like I feel
So
so
sorry,
bad.
no
No,
idea,
it was like this was meant to hurt her for sure. So she was pissed, and she was like, "And by the way, we have a kid." So.
Well, I mean, Ava, that you know, 1.5, 2 years old, you're starting to be able to kind of start to talk a little bit. Kids are starting to figure shit out, and they're gonna start asking questions. You're like, "Where's Dad?"
Yeah, well, they're gonna start going to school soon and see other dads and be like, "Well, where the hell is my dad?"
But the good thing that came of this is that Susan, Tony's wife, was actually very accepting. I mean, as much as you can be in this situation where she took, you know,
Streamed for 5 hours. Holy cow, that was a long stream, dude.
As family, in a sense, like
A nice, well-deserved break, huh?
happy, but she was, you know, at least willing to
It's
deal
a
with the situation she was
long
in.
one, man.
I feel like a lot of people would freak the fuck out, be like a divorce, blow up, like, then Tony would be, you know, a single guy. So yeah, like Susan invited them over for Sunday dinners. Like they got like close, and they started building a relationship with Ava, especially.
Join you, I know.
They wanted him to have
Join you, I know. No, it's not.
I'm
What do you
sure
mean?
Susan was like, "You need to be there for your kid, dude."
GGGG.
Yeah. So that kind of gives you a little bit of backstory on you know,
So
her
much
and,
stuff
the
to
situation that she's in, and
to attack over here. I love this
fall of
spot. I'm gonna
2001,
build over here.
when things
Can
kinda
I?
start to unravel.
I can
So,
join you. Yeah, you can probably
obviously,
join. I'm not hosting right now, man.
as the summer comes to a close,
That's probably why I don't have a host. But if you add me, you can join me.
Wasteland up there. It's like there's nobody out. It's just cold as shit. You know.
Dude, that's where the pilgrims showed up too. In the snow, in the winter. They came in like December.
That must have been crazy as shit.
Yeah,
Can you
dude,
host?
they pulled up there, like,
I'll have to restart everything if I do that, but I can in a minute. Yeah, I get more followers when I play a game and make get shit life. I've never heard of that.
yeah, that would probably sound really bad. But yeah, it gets really cold there.
And especially in Truro, like all the tourists that come in the summer, people at summer houses there go back. You know, they don't want to be there in winter. So
Exactly. So there's
she
less.
was
That wasn't
people.
good.
It's a touristy town.
yeah, it's like a summer vacation destination. So she was out there.
I think you gotta go
still
like
the
in
winter, all by
game,
herself, and her
and then
that's
that's where you make your characters your own. Oh, okay. I played a Vatican Life or a Vatican Life or something. Vatican Life. I haven't played the other one. The one you just mentioned.
out on the Cape Cod all on her own.
That's really scary.
To add me, you just have to
You
go
know,
into the
I
game
like
and then
not
add.
that. I'm such a baby. I have gotten
It's like,
so
can you
used
handle
to.
that? Could you ever
No,
do that?
I'm so used to having Josh home. Like, I don't even know what I would do if you had like business trips or something to go to. Like,
I don't
would
know
be
what
so
you
scared.
do. Like,
Oh, I know what I would do. I'd have her ass over, sleep over.
you
Janelle would
got
spend the
Janelle
night. I would be really scared sleeping by myself. That like scares me so bad. I'm such a baby, especially if I had kids. Oh, I'd be a wreck. You can never leave.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, if we had kids, I feel like you'd never let them out. Be there with you.
You're a protector, okay?
I'm a protector. Alright, I'll take that. I'll wear that badge of honor. So, in Chris's story, it's now January 2002.
I wish that PS3. Dude, I too, because I could play online for free. That'd be
that
dope.
Krista is for sure seen alive, unfortunately. On January 4th, 2002, there's surveillance camera footage at a grocery store Stop and Shop where she can be seen with her daughter Ava sitting.
A moment has been recorded. Thank you for the recorded moments, guys.
The store. It's just so eerie to think about when you look at, this is the last video pictures of this person alive that we have, and they're just, you think about where their mind state's at in these pictures, and you're just like, she's just at the grocery store, just like I was. Not thinking about what had happened to you.
My cousins. Oh, that'd been tight. Yeah, man. Dang.
So that's the last.
They're pretty cheap. I think I'll probably get another PS4 though. I don't know if I'll ever get another PS3, but I'll for sure probably get another PS4 at some point. I like caves.
This is when her body is discovered. So a man named Tim Arnold, who was somebody that dated Krista in the past and actually lived 100 yards away, like just down the road from her.
Well, picture it kind of like their houses were really close to each other, but there's kind of gnarly land in between them, so you wouldn't want to just like walk through the yards probably at night.
No.
So it would make sense to drive out, go out, because they're long driveways.
Right.
It's still quite a bit of land.
Yeah, they're secluded.
Can I still go this way a little bit more?
The houses aren't right on the main street. Like they have long, set driveways that go way back into some trees. So yeah. So Tim, on January 6th, decides to drive over to Krista's place because
I get a phone for a
wants to
B-Day. Oh, that'd be
return the flashlight
sick.
to her.
Phone for the B-Day. That'd be cool.
To her place. And this guy, Tim,
I knew it was gonna be lava.
interesting character. But the bottom line is he had a very intense relationship with her. He lived with her.
Did you see that sheep fall into lava just like that?
Really smart, likable guy. He was also a writer. So somebody that she clearly was really close with at one time.
Fell right in. How shitty, huh?
On this particular Sunday, they were watching a Patriots game, and
motherfucker!
enough suggested to Tim that he go over to Krista's house to return her flashlight that he borrowed. So Tim's father drove Tim to Krista's house, and as Tim was walking up to the front door, he noticed that there were 2 newspapers that were on her driveway that she hadn't collected. Back then, that's how you told if somebody was home. Like,
right.
And he said that this was really strange, and that when he looked through the front door window, that's when he saw Krista's body lying on the ground, motionless. And he says that the door was unlocked, which is interesting.
Oh, that sucks. That's a shame.
The door did look like it was kicked in from pictures. So, must have already been kicked in, so we just kind of pushed it open and went inside.
I forgot the password. Oh, that sucks. That's a witch.
That's
I'm out of here.
What happened. But yeah, he went over to her and he felt her face, and it was completely cold. And
she wasn't wearing pants. She just had a shirt on.
Yeah, completely bare.
Covered in blood.
Bottom half of the body, and just brutally
stabbed.
Yeah, just
really gnarly. And the worst thing about it is Ava was there. She was actually just sitting on the ground next to her mom. She had been using these cotton swabs. She'd been getting them wet in the sink and using them to try to clean her mom off, which is I can't even put into words how horrific that is. I mean, it's
the
terrible.
trauma that she witnessed.
Yeah.
And endured that day is insane.
Insurmountable.
Alrighty.
Yeah, literally, I think at one point they said she was nursing on her mother and trying to clean her up.
Tim said in the phone call, so I'm imagining so. In the 911 call. On the 911 call, he talks about her nursing on her mother's body, but I'm not sure if that's
we don't really know.
I mean, there's a lot of suspicion around Tim. First of all, why did you randomly decide to give
bring a flashlight over
so
to a single woman at home?
Yeah. So and to go with the dad, they went out together. That's kind of
and then when he got back, after he told his dad that she was dead, his dad literally asked him
wasn't his dad in the car?
Did you do it? Yeah.
Yeah.
When
back to the car. Well, he came out to the car, which was weird, and he said, Krista's dead, and spelled it out D-E-A-D.
Because he grabbed Ava and brought her out too.
Yeah, he just seemed kind of shaky in the 911 call. The whole thing was kind of weird, but I don't know. I mean, so he instantly gets put as a suspect, like the number one suspect.
Yeah, which makes sense, because, I mean, whoever finds the body, you never know.
Yeah, and then they find out more about him.
Right. Yeah, because he's like obsessed with her pretty much. Like he's really into Krista, and he long history of like kind of stalking her. And at one point he like went over to her property and decided that instead of like being a normal human and like ringing the doorbell, and
he did. He rang the doorbell a couple times, but then she didn't answer. So he looked. He was probably avoiding him. And so he looked in the window and saw her, and she was like really freaked out by that. Because it's creepy. It's fucking creepy.
If someone did that to you, you'd be like, what the fuck?
So it seemed like he had kind of an obsessive relationship with her. Like, we'll talk about that. They had a thing going on. But anyway, when, right after the police get there, his wife, Tony and his wife got to the scene as well. So Tony and Susan. And one of the investigators says that Tony's wife, Susan, said to him, don't listen to anything that the little girl has to say. She's a fucking liar about Ava. Which she says that it isn't completely true. That she said that she made a joke about her, like, telling stories, being a bit of a storyteller as a little girl. But the investigator's like, no, she said she was a fucking liar. So we've never really figured out exactly what was said, because she just denies that. And she thinks it was, like, totally blown out of proportion. But that made them seem suspicious as well.
Yeah.
So police ended up taking Tim back to the station for more questioning, and then they took him back to his house, and that is when his dad said, right. Tim, did you do it? And he was like, no. So anyway, we'll go into the rest of the suspects, because that's not even, that's like scratching the surface. There's so many suspects for this. It reminds me of like a game of Clue or something.
No,
There's
really
so many
is.
And we'll get into that after.
As well as like the scene too. It's what did the actual scene look like?
Yeah.
What evidence was there?
Explain it.
But before we do, we'd like to thank our last sponsors for today. So you've probably heard about neighborhood watch groups, right? Which are just neighbors looking out for each other and trying to keep their community safe. Well, get this. The Neighborhood Watch is now an app on your phone. You might be wondering, how does that work?
Probably a little bit, yeah. A little bit later I will. I'm just messing around on mine right now, trying to explore and stuff.
Love. And it's the company that's behind those awesome
I would. I'd join sometime.
And security cameras. With the Neighbors app, you receive real-time crime and safety alerts from your neighbors. Who doesn't want that? And it helps you stay informed about what's actually going on in your neighborhood, and it's completely free. Best of all,
thank you so much for the follow.
A Ring device to use this app. We have actually been using Ring products for a while. When they came out,
we're going straight across into the ocean here, boys.
It allows you to know actually what's going on within your neighborhood. For example, it's great if you happen to have your dog get out, which we've had friends whose dogs have gone loose, or other pets, cats, accidentally get out of the house. And what's awesome is oftentimes they're spotted on people's Ring cameras, or people actually just post to the Ring app. But not only that, personal home security is super important. Kendall and I are actually moving because we have had some personal home security concerns here. And what's great about the Ring Neighbors app is it allows you to know if there's people in your neighborhood that are doing sketchy things, stealing packages, kids ding-dong ditching, or worse, people trying to break into people's homes. So it allows you to give your neighbors a heads up if you see suspicious activity going on, and so everybody can stay safe. And that's why millions of people are already using the Ring Neighborhood app.
Oi, what's up, bud?
It's literally making neighborhoods and communities safer than ever before. So if you want to help and make sure you and your neighborhood are safe, download the free Neighbors app today. Go to ring.com/milehigher to download from iOS or Android app stores. That's ring.com/milehigher. Make your neighborhood safer today with the Neighbors app by Ring. As most of us have found out the hard way, including myself, getting into debt is
squids
easy,
trying to chase
but
me.
getting
What's
out
up?
is hard, especially if your FICO score isn't great. Sky-high interest rates can make it incredibly hard for you to break out of that revolving debt cycle. Thankfully, now there's Upstart.com, the revolutionary lending platform that offers smarter interest rates to help you pay off high-interest credit card debt, which I know for me personally, if I had known about Upstart a few years ago, when I was still digging myself out of credit card debt, I would have most definitely went and gotten an Upstart loan because of that smarter interest rate. Because if you don't have great credit, then you get slammed with very high interest rates, which may even put you into debt more than you already are. What's great about Upstart is they go beyond your traditional FICO score or credit score when assessing your actual credit worthiness. They actually reward you based on your education.
Collapse the whole thing in
the form of a smarter interest rate, which is great, so they don't ding you on the credit part of the application. Upstart believes you're more than just a credit score. They make it fast, simple, and easy to check your rate in just a few minutes without affecting your credit score. The best part is that once the loan is approved, most people get their funds the very next business day, the next day, which is great. Over 200,000 people have used Upstart to pay off credit cards, student loans, fund their wedding, or to make a large purchase. Free yourself from the burden of high-interest credit card debt by consolidating everything into one monthly payment. Upstart. See why Upstart is ranked #1 in their category with over 300 businesses on Trustpilot, and hurry to upstart.com/milehigher to find out how low your Upstart rate is. Checking your rate only takes a few minutes.
Try to find a Sentinel. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
That's
upstart.com/. I just found
so let's talk a little bit about
I
the
found a
actual
boat
murder scene.
just now, and a.
Krista's car was parked outside of her house, and the keys were also outside.
I found one already. It's behind me.
There
I'm
was
just.
some small skid marks on the gravel leading up to the door, as if someone or something had been dragged.
Yeah, that's what's weird, and that's why.
I'm just looking in this right now.
There must have been some type of altercation out here.
Yeah.
Because somebody got dragged. Like it's clearly
See, look,
drag
watch.
marks.
Right.
There's of, like, the heaviest
There's a
points.
tomb right over there.
And then the front door was
Right straight ahead. There's one.
Kicked it in.
And then there's a.
And then just
really
there's a shit right there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go check out in a second.
That must have been terrifying, but
yeah.
You know, we got a lot more information in the body. That's usually where police find a lot of clues and also gather information.
Is that a big old turtle?
The victim.
Yeah, that turtle. Are you kidding me?
Body,
Badass.
She had defensive wounds on her hands,
turtle.
as well as other places on her body.
When someone has wounds on their hands, I mean, they're most likely it's from trying to fight back or to save themselves.
But the murder weapon was never found. However, some investigators suggest that the murder weapon was actually a knife that was found on the cutting board in her kitchen. I feel like, though, I mean, how well did they have time to clean it? Like, did leave the knife back there? There's still no way to grab DNA off of that, like, to make sure. Like, and that's, again, it's like the whole thing is either we're not getting all of the information released, or they just.
Hey, what's up? Welcome back.
Well, and this is what Josh and I were talking about a lot earlier today, is just how unprepared a lot of police stations are for murders like this, especially in towns like Truro.
Well, they say it's like half a century that there were since last time.
It like literally had never happened there like this before. So the police were completely underprepared for something like this, and the crime scene was just a mess. I mean, the worst thing that they did was put a blanket on top of her, which I think they were trying to like show decency and cover her bottom half because she was naked. And it's
that
just
contaminates the body with whatever.
Major, dude. And it's another piece of evidence in the house. They're using one piece of evidence to cover a body. Like, it's just basic CSI. You wouldn't do that.
Yeah, well as not taping off the crime scene itself. Like, you always tape the crime scene and create a perimeter around it and protect it, because that is where all of the information, the forensics are. And they didn't do that at all in this place. And I mean, her, and that was another thing, is her cottage looked like it had been ransacked. But from what we know about Krista, that's just kind of how she lived, and kind of like a chaotic house, like kind of shit everywhere. But yeah, I mean, it looks crazier than it actually is as far as her house. You know, when you look at the crime scene photos of her house, it looks like really messy, but that's just how it was.
And then of course, her cell phone.
Yeah, that's
her cell phone was left on the counter with just the number 9 dialed, so she was probably calling 911 and wasn't able to complete the call, which is really freaky. So it makes you think, I mean, she was probably conscious and knew something. I mean, just knowing her in that moment, she must have been so scared knowing that her daughter was home too. There was a threat to her as well. And you know, when her body was found, Ava was just sitting near her on the floor. She had been unattended for over 24 hours at this point. And when investigators came in, I mean, they had no idea they're not prepared for something like that. I mean, this girl's seen major trauma. This is super fucked up.
There's blood everywhere.
Yeah.
She's trying to trying to
clean her
get
and
water
stuff.
for her mom and washcloth.
Yeah, like
and
getting her little
wipe her up.
spoonfuls of water and stuff. And
so sad.
see if she could, I'm sure she didn't even like know what was going on. And, you know, so the investigator goes in there and he's like trying to find out just if she's been changed or when the last time she ate something, and like she was just completely silent. Totally freaked out. And
this was so obviously, clearly a murder and killing. Like, this was very, there's no questions about it. Like, somebody came in here and wanted to hurt her. And that's exactly what they did. Because, you know, at first it was like, did somebody break in? Was it like a robbery gone wrong? And, you know, she just ended up being killed because someone wanted to steal stuff. But then they realized that that wasn't the case. It was literally somebody was out to get her, and they busted in and did exactly that. So that's just so crazy. So yeah, there's just some pictures of the actual house, the crime scene, which I'll put up.
Really messy.
Yeah, just the house is a complete mess. Stuff everywhere, but again, not from the incident, most likely just how it was. But obviously, in a small place or a small town like Truro, word got out about what had happened. And people were just like shocked and upset, like, oh my god, I can't believe this happened. This is so terrible. There's a killer out there. Like, what the hell's going on? And this is when, at first, fingers started pointing at Tim, because I mean, it's the most logical suspect.
Well, and what we haven't told you about Tim yet is that we find out that Krista and Tim had a emotional and physical, and they had a relationship.
Yes.
Yes, and. Well, yeah, but they also had just a relationship. We haven't even explained that they were seeing each other.
Yeah.
They were hooking up.
They were exes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and more than that, he became somewhat of a father figure-ish, hard-ish there, to Ava. But to the point where he would even want to, you know, see her after they were together. Like, he saw her as somewhat of a child to him, in a way. And, but yeah, they fought a lot. They were arguing over little things. She was criticizing him over everything, such as even humming or sneezing too much. The one thing that he did a lot was humming, and she would say that she didn't want Ava to start being a hummer.
Right. And he would just call her like over and over and leave messages and just weird things. And here's one of the voicemails. It's just really weird.
Hi. Just calling to check to see if you have plans for the night yet. Bye. Hi. Sunday morning around 8. Would you like to go? Have coffee or you're not? I thought you'd be up. I'm sorry if you're not. Hi, Krista. What's up with the movie? Is there a problem? Did I call to her and I get the feeling that this is one of those things where you say you'll call back and you're not going to? And I wondered what it's all about, if anything. So, give me a call if you can, would you? Thanks. Well, I think you've made it very clear where you stand on the issue of friendship, so at this point, don't expect me to be around. Hi, Chris. Just to clarify, if you wanted to call to try to arrange for time for me to see Ava, that would be fine. I'll see what I can do. But I don't really think that we should see each other, even briefly. Bye.
What do you think about that?
I mean, it sounds kind of weird, but people talked really weird on the phone back then.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like pretty normal voicemail messages.
Yeah.
A little odd. Like, I feel like if we're not her, we're all gonna think that's just like weird and bizarre. And like, but if that's just how he is, and that's how.
Well, we're clearly missing like tons of the actual conversation that they're having in actual life, not over the phone.
Totally. Yeah. And
Voicemails.
I mean,
It's hard to figure out what's going on.
or what their level of friendship was after they were
Well,
together.
I think she clearly like got kind of weirded out by him starting trying to break it off.
Yeah.
He was having a hard time with that.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, a lot of people were pointing at him as possibly the person who could have committed these acts on Krista.
Maybe he, one of those classic, if I can't have her, no one can type situation. So obviously Tim was a suspect, but a lot of people around him were saying that this just isn't something that Tim would do, that it was out of his character, and they ended up finding nothing that could tie him to the death of Krista. So they eventually just had to move on. So he's not like ruled out. He definitely hasn't been like ruled out as a possibility. I think it's possible he could have done it. To be honest, we don't know who did it.
Yeah, there just wasn't enough to really link him to anything.
There wasn't any evidence to link him, other than, I guess, him bringing the flashlight. But that's not evidence of him having been there.
No.
There's no DNA of him there, there's no fingerprints of him there, there's nothing like that. Plus the crime scene was a mess.
So the police basically hit a dead end with Tim.
So then they're turning to Tony and Susan because of her comment, mainly because she said, "This child's a fucking liar." Which, again, we're not for sure that she even said that. We don't know. She seemed very adamant that she did not say that, so I'm not sure. But I do think it's kind of a strange time to make a joke about a kid being a liar, even if you were joking. Like, that just seems like a very strange time when they just lost their mom. To be like, don't believe anything they say.
Yeah.
Like,
very weird.
I wonder if Ava's ever had any. Like, they didn't ever, like, interview her, obviously.
No,
she's a baby.
Yeah, and and even now
She doesn't remember anything.
No, doesn't want to be involved with it.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, it's so traumatizing. I understand that.
But I mean, I get why investigators went to them and were like, okay, well, let's look at who else was close to her.
Maybe Susan did it because, I mean, first of all, they found those notes that she had written, and, you know, they looked really bad because they were so angry sounding.
Yeah, they were.
You know, they could have clearly fired up something in Susan and made her snap, potentially.
Yeah, it's happened before, so why not consider that at least? And that's what they were thinking. It's a possibility that she may have gotten angry enough and did something.
But why, like, think about it. Why would she want to kill the mother of Ava when she's, I'm sorry, I'm shifting this table so much. For instance, we have like literally we have a card table with our old thing from our festival on top. Anyway,
no, why would she want to kill Ava's mother when does she want to then be in charge of Ava all the time? Because guess who's getting her next? You know, like it seems like stupid to kill off her caretaker of this child. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, especially when they were trying to have a relationship. She was inviting him over for dinners and stuff like that. But also, it just doesn't make sense to like, out of anybody, shouldn't she be doing it to her in the first place?
Yeah,
like,
but she definitely could have had her anger more.
But she was like, he was just a naughty boy.
Yeah, she called him a naughty boy.
It's like, seriously?
He's a naughty Tony.
After all that, you're just like, he was a naughty boy. I mean, at the end of the day, they gave them polygraph tests and they did pass the polygraph test, which I mean doesn't prove anything, but it does show that they were, you know, likely not lying about what had happened or that they were involved with Chris's death. All right, so after Susan and Tony have the polygraph test, investigators, you know, were doing some more digging into their background, and they found out there was a lot of pressure being put on Tony to help provide for Ava, like we talked about.
What the fuck?
Specifically, Krista wanted Tony to put Ava on his health insurance and wanted to help provide them with financial support. She even hired a lawyer and threatened to sue Tony if he didn't help, you know, start helping with Ava.
Which is only fair.
Yeah, and because of all this, investigators were wondering if maybe Tony did something to Krista because he wanted to get her basically off his back and not, you know, provide those things. Which,
but again, what is the point of killing your daughter's mom? Because then you're going to have, you know, a child to take care of. Which, in reality, he ends up not taking care of her anyway.
No.
She moves in with one of Krista's friends.
Yeah,
and is
actually,
raised by her. But
in her will, Krista put that her friend Myra Chase would have guardianship of Ava if something were to happen to her. And because of this, Tony did go through like a custody battle to try to get custody of Ava. So during this time, the custody battle is all in turn slowing down the investigation, and police are not getting anywhere farther with Tony. So they have to look elsewhere and look at other suspects who could have done this to Krista. And this is when they came across a very interesting fellow named Thomas Churchwell. He was a magician, actually. And basically they went to him and pretty much were like, you did this, right? And he was like, yo, I didn't, just because I'm a magician doesn't mean, you know, I would do something like this. That's pretty much how he put it. Like, the police literally came to him, and, you know, because they're just running out of leads.
And only a magician could pull this off.
Right.
That's the stupidest logic I've ever.
The guy was like, what are you talking about?
It must be the magician that did this then, guys. Case closed.
So yeah, so they didn't find anything further with Thomas Churchwell, so they had to continue looking. At one point, even Krista's own father and his girlfriend were considered potential suspects, which Krista's father, who was 72 at the time, and his girlfriend was 29 years old, an ex-heroin addict and also a former prostitute. And investigators believe that maybe Elizabeth was the one who killed Krista because she wanted to get the money from her sugar daddy. Because he was wealthy, like, trying to get her out of the way so that she could inherit it.
Well, basically, she was hacking into, like, a bunch of their money, like, their estate, because he was help supporting her heroin addiction and, buying her a bunch of things, and just a ton of money was going towards her, and Krista was trying to get that shut down.
Right.
And make sure that he wasn't kind of being a victim of a sweetheart swindle, which I'm doing a video on a sweetheart swindle this week, but it's basically when a young person takes advantage of an old person with money and tries to live off of them.
Yeah, and it happens, and I mean, sugar daddy, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So it's a possibility. I mean, I get why the investigators looked at that. It's definitely a plausible situation that could have led to her death for sure. Mm-hmm. And they actually both took a polygraph test, and they surprisingly didn't pass. But despite this,
interesting.
So they didn't pass.
You don't know, like, polygraphs are so unreliable, but it's still interesting.
They're not that unreliable, though. They still do a pretty good job at.
Yeah, I know, but they just don't hold up at all. Like, as far as real evidence goes, no, they don't hold up in court because they literally don't. I mean, they don't prove anything at the end because they're not completely reliable at all.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think it's still able to, you know, could they be deceiving because you either pass with flying colors or you don't, and there's scientific reasons behind polygraphs. So if they're not passing a polygraph, there is a very good chance, at least, whether it's 100% or not, that they're not being truthful about some stuff. So
maybe, yeah.
Could they have been,
or they're nervous. I mean, there's a billion different reasons.
We don't know. At the end of the day, we don't know. So after the police, you know, kind of rule out Krista's dad and his girlfriend, they really didn't have anywhere else to turn to. Like, they didn't have any more leads. They really didn't have any more suspects. The list was just growing. So there's so many suspects, in fact, that they had to figure out a way to kind of narrow it down. And, you know, try to at least get somebody that could be matched up with the DNA at the crime scene, which we, you know, if you remember, they completely fucked that up. They contaminated it. There's fingerprints all over the place. So there's no way to actually, like, pull any specific prints or anything like that. And as far as on Krista's body, there was saliva, sperm, and DNA on her body from an unknown person.
Which, by the fact that she wasn't wearing pants, you can assume
some type of sexual
probably.
Yeah, exactly. So because of these findings, police believe that Krista was involved in possibly some type of intimate relationship before she was killed or during it or something like that. And at this point, the police put out a $25,000 reward to find out, you know, who was the DNA match. They were trying to figure that out. And with no signs of a DNA match in January of 2005, they decided to do something very controversial known as a DNA dragnet, which basically they asked all male residents who lived in Truro, which was about 700 of them, to give DNA samples, like, willingly.
That's unbelievable that they would do that. I've never
and they were
heard
aggressive
of that.
with it. They'd, like, approach you in public, be like, here's the test.
And if you don't take it, then that was also part of their reason for doing it. If they wanted to see who didn't want to take it.
Right, oh, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Because, like, if you're innocent, you should just...
get your mouth swabbed.
No problem, give the DNA, but...
Yeah. But that's such an invasion of privacy. It's crazy.
So because of this DNA dragnet, this case really kind of got elevated into national headlines. Like, people started really hearing about this because this was kind of unheard of. It's very controversial to do this thing, a dragnet, and, you know, it's often frowned upon because it's just very, it's very invasive, and it's putting people in positions they don't want to be in. And because of this, you know, things did not get better for the case at all. Like, they didn't narrow down the suspects or anything really until 3 years later. They got a match for the DNA on her body, and it led them back to an individual named Christopher McCowan. And they went and found this guy on April 15, 2005.
And he was actually her garbage man. And he kind of has an interesting story. He seems to have been kind of screwing a bunch of ladies on his garbage route.
Yeah.
Kind of seems like that was the deal. I mean, from what he was saying, that there were multiple women, like, consenting in sex with him. Yeah, on the garbage route.
Yeah, the garbage man.
So it sounds like he was having a relationship with Krista of some sort.
Right.
Maybe not a relationship, but a sexual relationship.
Had an encounter with her, a sexual encounter with her.
Could have been once, could have been more than once, I'm not exactly sure.
Because they matched the DNA from the crime scene to Chris, and that's the whole thing, is that, the DNA didn't come from this dragnet, but instead, they actually had his DNA from Chris's body 1 year prior to his arrest, actually. That was what's crazy, is they actually had his DNA. They just never connected the dots, or it took that long for it to get processed or something.
Yeah, this
crazy
case
like
was
that.
a mess.
But once the word got out that Chris McCohen had been matched, the public started questioning police on why they didn't bother looking into this person, especially the fact that he picked up her trash every week. Like, why didn't, instead, before jumping to a giant dragnet, wouldn't you go look at every male she comes into contact with on a daily, weekly basis? Like,
it seems stupid.
It seems pretty basic thing to miss.
And so at first, I mean, I kind of jumped ahead, but he did tell them at first that he, like, hardly knew her. So, I mean, he wasn't just, like, straight up like, oh, yeah, I was, like, banging all these women on my route. After a while, after questioning, he started talking about that.
Right.
But, at first he was trying to act like he hardly knew her.
Right. And he wasn't an individual that was super well known on in that area at all. Before he was a trashman, he worked for a moving company in Cape Cod. He was a pretty quiet guy, kept to himself. He had 3 kids from 3 different mothers and was 33 at the time that he was arrested for Chris's murder. And despite his DNA matching, a lot of people knew him, said that Chris was definitely not the type of person to commit this crime.
Yeah, tons of people came to his defense just saying, like, no way. He's just a really mellow dude. He wouldn't do anything like this. But then you kind of hear there's some more to him that makes you kind of question, could he have done something like this, though?
Yeah, he had some criminal history for sure.
Yeah, there were women reporting that he
had restraining
I can't
orders.
find the part in here exactly what it says, but yeah, he had multiple restraining orders from different women who said things like, he scared me, strangled me.
Yeah, behavior that could indicate some type of domestic violence on females.
Is he capable of it? So,
which makes sense for why.
I mean, there's plenty of people that are really, really nice when you meet them that secretly they abuse women or abuse whoever behind the scenes. Like, so it's not always who you think it would be.
Exactly. Even though may not seem like the type of individual personality-wise that might be able to do something like that, doesn't mean they're not capable of it. And I think people forget that a lot. They're like, oh, he's just the friendly neighborhood trash guy.
Yeah.
But then those people end up being like a serial killer or something.
Yeah,
no idea.
it's possible.
That's just kind of how it goes. Yeah, because people are like, he wasn't a fighter, he was never known to have any type of violence, and people that knew him, quote unquote. But yeah, so people also, because this guy is African American, and a lot of people started thinking that maybe the police were targeting him because he was a minority in Cape Cod, and therefore like people would see him as like scary, quote unquote.
Well, I mean, Cape Cod is like super whitewashed. There's only 1.2% of the population that's black, so I mean, a lot of people were like, are you guys just jumping to conclusions with him because he's like a big scary black man? Like, that's how they described him in court. Literally in court, they used words like big. So is there some racial profiling going on in a way? I mean, there's DNA here too.
Right, DNA doesn't lie, but just from that DNA,
you can't
determine if he killed her. Right. That's the whole thing. Did he have some type of sexual encounter? Because it was back to, I believe, his sperm was what it was.
Yes, so
the DNA was sperm.
And here's the thing with the sperm, is after they looked under a microscope, they discovered that the sperm was deteriorated. That they didn't have tails, like they couldn't even swim anymore. So they were days old. So it could have been from days before she was murdered, or a day before she was murdered, or something like that.
it doesn't prove the two coincide with each other, you know. So,
and just because his sperm was found there, that doesn't mean that he raped her. It could mean they had a consensual relationship, because we do find out he did have multiple relationships with women on his trash route.
Exactly, and so that's why people got that feeling that maybe he's being targeted, because the prosecution and prosecutors brought all the charges, rape, murder charges for him, and we're really trying to throw everything at him,
Definitely.
and convict him. So prior to Chris becoming prime suspect, when they were looking at the other suspects, rape was never something that was even mentioned or brought up. Like, that was a brand new thing they brought into the table when they got Chris and arrested Chris for these crimes. They put the rape on him. And I mean, again, there was the sperm that was found, but, is there enough to charge him with that? So now we're getting into Chris's trial, which Chris's trial was the trial of the century. Most people living there had never witnessed a murder happen in their area, so this was like a huge deal, as you can possibly imagine. The media and the press were all over it, filming it. It was filmed, and during the trial, one of the prosecutors disclosed that during the first 2 interviews they had with Chris talked about not knowing or having anything to do with Krista. However, the third time that they spoke with him, they gave him the DNA match results, and this is when prosecutors claimed that Chris said, quote unquote, it could have been me. He's been asked about this later, and again, the police, the tactics that they use to try to force confessions from people are very shady and sometimes and just way over the top, and they grill you because they're trying to get something, and when they're not, if they have all these dead ends, they're going to push really hard, and that's what Chris said.
Even at first, with Tim, originally, when he was trying to say, I didn't do it, they were apparently telling him, yes, you did. Being very forceful about it. And then we find out that Chris, not only was he being, kind of forced in a certain direction, he also was under the influence of several different things while he was being interviewed.
When he got arrested, he was all fucked up,
Yeah, on a bunch of different things, he said. He was like, I barely knew what was going on.
He was not in, like, a sober state of mind by any
so he barely remembers, like, what he said, so...
And I think that's just so shady when they try to do that. They try to put words in your mouth and use it against you.
I mean, there's so many cases of that. It's crazy.
It's honestly fucked that they do that. But basically, Chris admitted that he was asked by Krista to come into her house that day to dispose of a Christmas tree that was still in her house. And then after coming into her house to help with the tree, the two just kind of ended up, getting on in the living room. And he hasn't really gotten into too much detail about how it went down, but
all he said is the reason he didn't want to tell them is because she didn't want anyone to know. They agreed to keep it like a secret, and he was trying to protect her.
Which makes sense. I mean, if that's what she asked for, and he seems like...
Yeah. I mean, he also didn't know what the fuck was going on the first time they interviewed him, so that's probably why he didn't mention that.
So then prosecutors also said that Chris mentioned that he wasn't the only person at the house during that time. According to the prosecution, Chris said that one of his friends named Jeremy Frazier actually drove him home to Chris's house after him and Jeremy were at a party that night she was killed. Prosecutors said that Chris told them he was pretty drunk and he didn't want to get caught drunk driving, so Jeremy agreed to drive him to Chris's house so that Chris could hook up with her.
And remember, this is all
coming from the
first of all, he says he doesn't remember saying this. And he also said that he was, messed up on a bunch of things at this point during this interview. But this is their version of events according to what he said.
Right, because his version of what happened that night is completely different.
Well, here's another sketch thing, is he chose to not have his interviews reported by police.
Yeah.
Which is some weird Massachusetts rule, I guess. Like, this isn't a thing anywhere else, but if you don't want to be recorded, you can opt out of it, although they recommend you do it because it just helps keep a better reflection of what happened.
You want to write down every word you say.
They can twist what you say.
Yeah.
It ends up screwing you over. I think he thought he was protecting himself in some way, but it makes it worse for you.
Yeah, it does. You want the full transparency of what's actually said.
So they were just reading what he said.
Yeah, and I think they even said that the interview was extremely long, and for how long the interview went, there should have been hundreds of pages of notes written, and instead the detectives that were working with Chris, trying to prosecute him, had like 27 pages for the whole thing. And, you know, the person that is writing those notes and going to end up giving them to the judge has a lot of leeway over what's in there. And so they really were able to kind of craft their own version of events and kind of put, you know, the story, plant it in a way, plant the story and kind of force him into accepting it.
So the investigators basically say that Chris said that he and Jeremy went to the house after they were at this like juice bar having a nice little party.
Yeah, it wasn't a juice bar.
That's what they were calling it, a juice bar.
I think that was the name of it, but they were doing hip hop and stuff.
Yeah, but that was like a thing back then. This is like the
juice bar.
Yeah, I don't know. They're at the juice bar, the local Cape Cod juice bar. And afterwards, he says he basically was, according to what he originally said. Again, we're not sure if this is true, but according to their version of events, he is horny basically and is too drunk to drive. So Jeremy drives him over to Chris's house. They go in and he basically says like, yeah, I'm tipsy and I just want to get some. And she's like, all right, cool, I'm down. And they go upstairs and do that. And meanwhile, Jeremy's rummaging through her house.
Yeah, stealing things.
Yeah, and takes some stuff. And so they come down and she notices that there's some stuff gone.
Yeah,
so as they're leaving in the driveway, she walks out and starts yelling at him and saying like, what the hell, give me my stuff back. And he wigs on her, starts punching her, and according to their whatever Chris said,
events,
Chris apparently joins in as well, starts beating on her. And then that would explain the drag marks outside, drags her into the house. And that's where Jeremy grabs a knife
and stabs her in the chest.
And, you know, Chris says that he never was involved with the actual killing, that he wouldn't have killed someone. So that was kind of like their story. But then he, you know, was like, no, well, I was really fucked up when I told you guys all of that. And I don't even remember. So he's now saying that didn't happen at all.
Yeah.
He wasn't even there that night at all.
Right. And that he actually just went home after that he was never there.
That's his current version.
So, and that's what's weird is because when we explore Jeremy a bit more, there's some weird sketchiness with him in the trial as well. Because, there's all these conflicting stories, and it makes us really confusing as to what really happened that night, because we just really don't know. There's all these versions of events, and, you know, we don't even have the official, we don't have no recordings of the interviews and stuff, so we don't really know what was said.
No.
But what's interesting is that, so the defense argued that because he was so high on the drugs, that he was most likely not comprehending what was going on, and that he didn't have the clear mindset when he was giving his statement. And they also stated that he had a very low IQ and was just above someone considered to have a severe mental disability, and that he was exposed to being manipulated by the police because of this, and that, you know, he probably was forced to say a lot of things that weren't true. That kind of helped his defense case.
So not only was the whole interview process pretty sketchy, but there's also nothing to tie Chris directly to this crime scene, except for the degraded semen that was found on her body, but that could have been earlier. You don't know if that was done at the crime scene.
He said he did have.
He did go into her house to get the Christmas tree the day before. So the murder was on a Friday, and he was with her on a Thursday. So it is one day apart.
Yeah, there was like literally no fingerprints, no footprints for Chris. And what's weird is there was DNA from three other individuals found under the fingernails.
Which is a huge hit here. I mean, that's so telling that there's obviously more people involved.
Yeah.
And if that DNA, none of that DNA is Chris's, that's huge because that's her attacker's DNA that's under her nails. So it's looking pretty sketchy.
There's no evidence to suggest that he murdered her, period.
It's all circumstantial.
Very circumstantial.
So there were also these clothing fibers that were found on her body, and they were blue and white. And Chris was not wearing any sort of blue or white during the night of her death. In fact, he was actually seen at the party wearing a black jersey. There's a picture of him, not even the type of, material that sheds.
No.
And then Jeremy Frazier was wearing a blue and white sweater that night at the party.
That fibers could have fallen off of if he had gotten close to her.
It's like a sick little polo he had on.
Which Jeremy, he from day one swear he had nothing to do with the murder, and that the night of the murder he was at a party with Chris, and then later that night they all split up and he stayed the night at his friend Sean's house.
Yep.
And during the trial, Sean also talks about how Jeremy was really wasted at the party, and that's why he took him home to his house, as opposed to letting him go somewhere with Chris or get in the car and drive drunk to Chris's house or something, which does kind of make sense.
And another important factor was that fact that Krista's neighbors told police the day before that she was found that when he was out on a walk, he found someone with a black car speeding out of Krista's driveway, flying down the road. And they can't figure out what car that was.
No, or who was it, or...
And the dude who saw it was it was insane. He was driving very fast out of here. Definitely caught his attention.
Well, and he even testified in court. He was like, they were like, what did you see, or who did you see? And he said it was some type of white Caucasian man that was driving the car, speeding out, which could have been somebody completely innocent, but at the same time...
There's a lot of white men in Cape Cod.
True.
700 of them, apparently.
But the way that the car came out, he said he wouldn't have even noticed it if the car hadn't literally been like gunning it out of the driveway, not even stopping to turn onto the main road, but just like skidding around the corner and taking off down the road.
Out of there,
Like clearly trying to get the hell out of there quickly. So there's definitely something going on with that.
So basically, the defense comes back and they state that they believe that what had happened that night was actually completely different than what the prosecution was trying to say happened that night. They basically said that Chris never even went to Krista's house after leaving the party, and instead he was actually at Krista's house the day before this. That lines up, the whole Christmas tree thing. This would have been a Thursday for trash pickup. And he was on his route. She called him to come inside, help her remove the tree.
It honestly makes a ton of sense.
Yeah,
that story
does.
Checks out.
Yeah, and with the type of Krista did like to have like fun.
Yeah, right.
She wasn't like
type sex like that. Where it's just like it's on the spot, not planned. Like boom, boom. Right there. So I mean, it makes complete sense.
Yeah, it really does.
And then the fact that they're charging this guy with rape when there's literally no evidence to suggest that there was any type of forced injury, you'd expect to see like, strangle marks or something like that where somebody was trying to forcefully enact, sex on somebody, and that wasn't the case at all. There was nothing there. So literally it seems like there's really nothing. Like the prosecution literally has nothing other than this story that they have.
Initial testimony where he's fucked up is like their best case. Best evidence.
So he's getting tried for his life. On that fucking argument.
Really serious.
Which
and
is
so
crazy.
the jury was made up of 12 people, obviously like every jury, but only one of them was black. And she talked about how it was just terrible being on this jury, and that she felt like from day one, everyone else had decided that he was guilty immediately, and she was the only one giving him the benefit of the doubt, saying, well, what if he didn't do it?
Yeah.
And that she would fight with everyone there. She felt totally like left out, and
and that they were giving her shit, like honestly, expressing racist behavior. Just being racially insensitive and things like that by using those terms that we talked about, big, black, and things like that.
Yeah.
During the deliberations.
Yeah. Well, not the jury, but yes, the prosecution was using descriptive words like big and black and just words that were very questionable as far as like,
but
are they trying to make
they were saying like black and like just the way that they were talking about him.
It felt very racist.
Yes, racially charged in a way.
But I mean, there's a lot of people that don't think it was racially charged at all. They will argue it's DNA. Right. We're talking about DNA here, and at the end of the day, his DNA is at the crime scene. So it is hard, and he does have this past. He had restraining orders before. It's difficult. Is there enough to say he did this?
Right.
Absolutely.
Is there a reasonable doubt?
No way.
That he did not do this.
Yeah, and that's what they're looking for is reasonable doubt. They are not saying reasonable suspicion that it happened. Like, you can't just be like, I'm pretty sure someone did this. You have to be 100% sure to convict someone and get the whole jury of 12 people to agree. And so even though there's that one woman kind of holding out for him and trying to be on his side, they actually ended up coming back with their verdict after 8 days of deliberation. And on November 16, 2006, Chris was found guilty
of first-degree murder, rape, and burglary, and sentenced to life without parole.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
He got like 3 life sentences. He got majorly screwed.
So fucked over. Because like...
And the poor guy, when he got the news, he's just in court crying in such true emotion. Like,
He just doesn't
can you
seem
imagine
like
that
it.
feeling? Like, if you really didn't do something, being sentenced for life. Can you even imagine?
No.
The stress. Like, oh my gosh,
They
really
just
can't.
ended your life, basically. They just took your entire life away from you, and you had kids.
Yeah, and
like,
for all we know, he could have been a great friend to Krista, and they could have had a great,
great relation, or just a great encounter, and like it was a happy memory for her.
Yeah.
And if she had seen him like in court, she'd be like, oh my God,
this is the wrong one.
you're on trial for my death.
Yeah, because it's not about finding someone to be guilty. It's about finding the actual person who did it, or else you're not getting justice for anybody, you know? And I feel that so many of these, the state system wants to find a suspect and convict them and wrap it up. Because it looks better than
by the public
having
and
an unsolved crime.
Totally, yeah. And it's better politically for them for re-election, the sheriff and things like that, or whoever's in charge of the DA's office, things like that, want to get cases closed up. So they felt like they had a strong case based